Hey everybody, it's Al with CAD CAM Wizard, and today we're going to talk about strip machining. This is where instead of machining one part at a time, we're going to machine multiple parts at a time, cut out of one strip of material. So instead of cutting a bunch of smaller blanks and holding them each separately, we're going to just take a longer strip of material and we're going to copy the part down so we have multiple parts that we can cut at one time, with the goal of speeding up our production, right? Versus cutting one at a time, we're going to cut multiple at a time. And if you got the right flute length, you're not going to be seeing all this red. But let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so let me stop this simulation. Come back over to our part geometry. Okay, so this is the part that we want to work with, and the first step that we want to do is make however many copies we want to make. So we're going to go to Utilities, Translate, select our part. We're going to set our spacing in between. It's important that the spacing in between is great enough so that the tool can fit between it. And then we'll set the number of copies that we want to make at a time and choose OK. Alright, so what we've done is instead of just working with one part at a time, we made copies for multiple parts at a time. Now the next thing we're going to do is just go in and set up our job. We'll make sure to select our workpiece here. It will use the bounding box in order to find the min-max. We want to add a 1/4 inch all the way around, and then we'll add a little more material on the bottom. Okay, so we'll box it in but leave some stock on the bottom so we have something to hold on to, and then we'll choose next. From here we can come in and pick up our 0 position, so we're going to grab this position here and then we'll choose OK. Alright, now we got our stock set up, we have our parts set up. We might want to run a facing routine to begin with. So using the facing routine, we can really just set our tool size and our cutting parameters, and if you have your stock set up and you've selected your work pieces, it's going to automatically pick up that boundary. So we'll go ahead and face off the part. Alright, now the next thing we want to do, we could come in and extract geometry and do 2D machining, but 3D machining is going to be easier for this. So we're going to load in a mill 3-axis. We'll go ahead and select all of our part geometry here, or our workpiece, and then we're going to use an advanced rough routine. Alright, so we'll load in advanced rough. We'll go ahead and set the tool size that we want to work with. We're going to choose adaptive. Okay, we're going to talk about the depth here because we want to cut all the way down to the bottom. We want to do it in one pass. Okay, our step over here, just going to set it to 200 for now. Our machining tolerance, I'm going to loosen up, and I'm going to just leave a side allowance for a profile finish, but the bottom allowance is going to be 0. All right. Let's look at our depth of cut. I'm going to set this to, let's say, 2 inches. All right, and we're going to just compute at this point. So it'll take a moment to calculate, and you'll see that we generate all our toolpath. Now let's go ahead and blank out the facing routine. And one of the things that you're going to notice is that the toolpath does cut down to the bottom of the part, but then you'll also notice that it cuts down to the bottom of the stock. Okay, so there's a variety of ways that you can control where you cut. You can use stock to limit it, advanced stock, you could use a boundary, but in this case we want to come in here under the parameters option and our depth, and by default I have it set to min-max for both, so that means it's looking at the machining surfaces and it's looking at the stock. So in this case, we only want to look at the machining surfaces, so it cuts down to the bottom of those surfaces. We'll go ahead and recompute this. And now we'll see that the toolpath just comes down to the bottom of the stock, or I'm sorry, the bottom of our workpiece. Okay, if we look at it from a front view, you can see it's cutting down to the bottom, and it's also leaving stock on the wall so we can come back and do a profile finish. Okay, now the other thing that I want to talk about is which side of the part the tool starts on. So if we right click on our advanced rough and choose backplot, you can see it's starting on the left side of the part. Now, depending on your setup and your table configuration, you may want to choose where on the part you want the tool to start, whether it be the left side or the right side. And a good way to do this, you can just sketch a point location. You can say, all right, I want the tool to start from over here. And then when you're in the parameters here, you can choose start location, and you can pick this point, right? So we'll go ahead and pick this point location, and we'll choose OK, and then we're going to recompute. And what that will allow us to do is choose where the tool is going to start from. So you see it doesn't start in this particular point right here, but you do see that it starts on this side of the part versus starting from the other side of the part. So that can be helpful, especially if you have a fourth axis on your table or another vise over here. Being able to choose where you start is definitely an option that's useful. So yeah, there you have it. Instead of cutting one at a time, you can cut multiple at a time. When you're using your advanced rough, instead of using min-max from both the stock and machining surfaces, you can choose just the machining surfaces. And yeah, so if you guys have any questions, comments, or feedback, just reply back to wherever this video may be posted. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in the next one.